Okay.
Take forever.
Hey there, everybody. We wanted to record just the story of what happened in the flood to us. It's been a month, and so we wanted to kind of get down everything that happened. We got to tell a lot of people the story, but we didn't get to tell everybody the story, and wanted to just save the story for ourselves too, I think. Um, so what happened in the flood? We bought a house Friday before, and then we went back to, we were staying with our realtor out near the Amite River, and so we went back to her house, and the flood started on Saturday. So
Started on Friday.
it started raining, yeah, really bad, and we pushed to go close, and we thought we might not even close that day, but we decided to go out in the rain and buy this house, and then we went back. We didn't even go to the house. So on Saturday, the river started to come up, and I don't know. I didn't think that it was going to flood like it did. Lauren, I think, thought it was going to flood into the house, but it kept coming up and kept coming up, and even when it was at the door of the house, I didn't think it was coming in the house.
Yes, I had already packed the diaper bag for our rescue.
Right.
And Jimmy was just running around saving
We were trying to like
from our realtor's
save
house.
photographs and put those up, and trying to move stuff around. I moved my car closer to the house because the streets started to flood, and there were even people playing in the streets, like boats and stuff. But I guess around 2 o'clock or so, it started to come into the house. And so then we kind of had to decide what to do, and we called 911. And no, it must have been 4 o'clock that it came in the house, because the boat came at 6. So a boat came, it's 2 hours later, and we got the girls together and waded out in the water and got Selah and Scout into the boat, and in the boat. And we were thinking at this point that we would get to a shelter.
Well, we thought we were getting into a rescue boat from the 911 phone call, but we got into a boat from random people who were rescuing folks in the neighborhood.
Right. So those people, I guess later, were called the Cajun Navy, and so I guess it was part of that group. And so nice guys, these good old boys that took us out, and they were just driving basically down the road, and we had to leave people. I remember there was a guy sitting in the front of his house in a wheelchair, and the driver of the boat said, we'll have to come back for you. And an older man. And
so in other words, we were not in a 911 rescue boat, so they just dropped us off on dry land, and we didn't have anywhere to go after that.
Right. And in the boat, I remember we were driving past cars and the water was like up to the windows and there was just like stuff left in the cars, and so they were like dodging cars that were kind of sticking up out of the water. And we saw these two deer, baby deer that were up on this mound that was sticking up out of the water. And Selah was a little bit nervous. She was sitting in the front of the boat and she started counting her fingers just to tend to calm herself down.
Mm-hmm.
Little details like that stand out. And
we saw 6 cows on someone's front porch.
Right. We saw 6 cows all up on this front porch that were trying to get out of the flood. So they got us to dry land, and these 2 other guys said, well, we'll give you a ride to a shelter. And they were also these 2 good old boys that took us up the street, and we got to their car, and it was like an old Honda Accord. And there were open beer cans in the back seat of the car. And so they took us to the shelter. And we were thinking still, well, we'll get to the shelter and then we'll stay at a nice hotel.
Or somewhere else.
We'll get somewhere good. And
I think it was a miracle, too, that we even got to the shelter from the car ride.
Right, so the car ride was crazy.
The car ride was a little scary.
I mean, it was like this old Honda Accord that we were going through pretty deep water that was like rushing over the road and stuff. And we had the little girl, our little girls in the back seat. And
there were no other cars on the road. There were just big trucks. We were in the only car.
Yeah.
So we almost lost traction a couple of times. So the car almost floated away from the road.
Right. So we got to the shelter, and
after a few cigarette breaks from the driver.
It was chaos. I mean, so I think it was Christ Community Church out in Denham Springs, and I think there were 500 people there that night, and dogs, and birds and everything. There were a lot of, a lot of poverty and a lot of people with needs, and they had lost everything. They'd lost their homes, and but people were really giving in the midst of all that stuff. Like I saw this one guy, an old woman walked in, and this guy, he said, I've lost everything. This blanket is all I have, but you're welcome to have this blanket. And a lady gave us her blanket and pillow. And so we had one blanket and one pillow between the 4 of us that night. And we realized we were staying there. And that was hard on you when we realized that we couldn't get out of there. It was surrounded by water. That was kind of a breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
But they served everybody jambalaya. Somebody had a wedding that day.
They were supposed to have
had a wedding, and they couldn't, but they sent over the wedding cake to the church, and everybody had wedding cake. But we were surrounded by water, so we couldn't leave. We couldn't get to a safe space or a hotel or something. And all this time we didn't know the condition of our house that we just bought. And I didn't get flood insurance on it. And I asked the insurance guy the week before, he said, well, you're not in the flood zone, so you probably don't need it. And the whole time I'm thinking, dang it, I should have gotten that flood insurance. Later we found out it was okay. So we stayed in the shelter and slept through the night somehow, and woke up, and a family took us into their house. They lived around the corner from the church, and they were just looking for families with small children. And so they took us in. What do you want to say about that?
What do you mean?
I don't know. It felt kind of amazing that they picked us out of everybody, and they also took in a family of 10, a Mexican family of 10 people, and they had almost nothing, just a small apartment, but they were just willing to take people in. And so we slept there for 2 nights. And our family was driving down because they couldn't get in touch with us because the AT&T service was down. So we couldn't really let people know, how we were and stuff. But we did finally get in touch with our family, and my dad and Lauren's mom reconnected, and they took us to our new house the Tuesday after the flood, and everything was fine, and our stuff was delivered that same day. And it was nuts. And we've been here a month. It's been a month since all of that. And we lost our cars. We went back, and we lost a few things over at that house in Denham Springs, but most of our stuff was fine. But a lot of people have lost like everything, and you'll drive down the road and you just see like piles of gutted houses along the streets, and people are still kind of recovering even a month later, and displaced and stuff. So, but we're here, and we're stabilizing one day at a time, and we're thankful. So, anything else?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. Thanks for all your thoughts and prayers for our family and your support in that time. And so, we love you guys. We're thankful for you. And we'll see you soon, I hope.